into the DNVR Rockies Podcast. I'm your host, Patrick Lyons, and on today's show, we will be welcoming in Jesse Friedman, Jesse N. Friedman, as he's known on the Twitter sphere. He'll be coming in from PHNX Diamondbacks to talk about the first place Diamondbacks. Seriously, that's the world that we live in here in 2023. Discuss the Dodgers, the third place Dodgers, who are coming to Coors Field. They're there right now for a 3-game set against the Rockies. Preview that series. But of course, we're going to start off the week like we normally do. It's not necessarily Minor League Monday, but it's more fitting because it's Tuesday morning. We'll talk about our prospects of the week. And before we get to that, we did have a piece of news that broke on Friday. That's kind of interesting and could be in play as a storyline for the remainder of the season. And that's the fact that Nolan Jones is now a rookie. He was at that 45-day service time mark. And if you've got 45 service days or more, you're no longer considered a rookie. You have to have less than that. And he had less than that as far as like at-bats and plate appearances, games played. For pitchers, it's innings pitched. So if you're a reliever, you could be on the roster all year and get under that, I want to say 45 inning limit. And it might look like you're a rookie, but you're not because you're on the roster all year long. Like Jake Bird, not a rookie, but you might see that on the Fangraphs website if you sort through the rookies. That being said, Nolan Jones, he's now a rookie. He's going to be in that conversation here in regards to being a Rookie of the Year candidate alongside Brenton Doyle and Ezekiel Tovar. Maybe all three of those guys could possibly get a vote. Maybe some of them will get a third-place vote. Maybe Tovar will be able to overtake Corbin Carroll. He's got a long way to go, and we'll talk it with Jesse about that in just a moment. But here's a couple words from what Nolan Jones had to say on Friday about his season and how things have been going as of late for the rookie right fielder.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think baseball's a game you have to play every day. Guys are throwing 100 miles an hour. Like, if you don't see it every day, it's hard to adjust to. So to get the opportunity to come here and, play every day and have small contributions, whether I have a bad day offensively, make a play, it definitely gives me confidence. I think that the hardest thing about the big leagues is believing that you belong in the big leagues. So to have small moments here and there that's like, okay, maybe I can play here, I think it goes a long way.
Where have you seen the most growth from yourself from the start of the season to now?
I think, the position stuff is something that I take pride in. I'm learning different positions. I'm still not a great outfielder, but I'm working on it. I think others would argue that. Well, I'm working on it. I think I take pride in that, and then obviously in the box every at bat. Like, I had an at bat in Atlanta that I kind of walked back from, and I was like, I was fully locked in, but I felt like I gave a pitch up or two. Yeah. And so it's like kind of like learning from those moments, and I'm always trying to get better. I think we're always trying to get better and until we're going to be great players one day. So I think taking every day and learning from it.
Honest in that conversation that we had. Myself, Kevin Henry was there, Thomas Harding, Kelsey Wingert even jumped in. In fact, you can see the entire interview over on the DNVR Sports channel on YouTube. Go ahead, like and subscribe to our channel there. And also, if you're just listening to this as a podcast, please like, subscribe, please leave a review. We haven't gotten a ton of reviews lately, and we always get new listeners, each and every day. So if you're listening to this for free and you're not a diehard yet, that's quite all right. Just go ahead and leave a review for us. We got to review some rookies. We got to review some, actually, they're not even rookies yet. We're talking prospects of the week, 4 of them, 1 for each level. And at AAA, it was a guy that he's not with the Rockies anymore. He was up for a day. Then he got sent back down. CJ Cron did get activated. But Michael Toglia is our AAA minor league player of the week. Hit 267, 2 home runs, 5 RBI. The key numbers that we talk about with a lot of these minor leaguers is the swing and miss, pitch selectivity. He walked 4 times, only struck out twice, so that was really nice to see. Unfortunately, he is no longer with the team right now, sent back down to AAA. So he will get an opportunity eventually at some point and be able to show a lot more of that patience with the Rockies, hopefully this season. Hunter Stovall, we keep saying his name, 2 homers and 4 RBI. Cole Tucker, we keep saying his name, 11 for 28, hit 393 on the week with a homer and a stolen base. I think there's a chance we could see both of those guys. Really great stories. A lot of redemption there for these guys who've been down in the minors for a while, and for someone like Cole Tucker, he's already been in the majors with the Pirates for a couple seasons, but that road back to the majors can be a tricky one, and so he's doing a nice job to get himself back there. Honorable mention to Matt Koch, 3 2/3 innings pitch, another former big league guy that we could end up seeing in the bullpen. Otherwise, kind of a rough week for Isotopes pitching. Our AA prospect of the week. This was a tight one. It was not Yankiel Fernandez. It's actually going to be Gabriel Hughes. 7 innings pitched in his lone start of the week. Only 3 runs, 1 walk, 7 strikeouts. Incredibly impressive for a guy who was just drafted last year. Viewed almost as a reach in that 10th spot. He was viewed as maybe the back of the first round. Rockies go ahead and take him, sign him for less than that slot value, allowing them to pay a little bit more for a high school lefty like a Jackson Cox, as well as Jordan Beck from the University of Tennessee. And you say, all right, we're getting maybe more quantity than quality, as it were, but absolutely fantastic job drafting him and developing him along that way. Yankiel Fernandez, no slouch, 2 homers, 6 RBI, did hit 300 for the week. Don't like that he didn't have any walks. He did strike out 10 times, but he's actually going to be the Rockies' lone representative in the Futures game. That's coming up on July 8th. That will be Saturday. Rockies are in San Francisco, a 2:05 game. The Futures game will start there at T-Mobile Park in Seattle at 5 o'clock. So that might be a double dip for you. You might be able to watch both of those games. It's only going to be a 7-inning exhibition, so the rosters are a lot smaller than they would be normally. You would have hoped that the Rockies could have gotten 2 guys on that roster, but Fernandez is going to be the only player there of note for the Rockies. Also have to mention, of course, Matt Holliday's son, Jackson Holliday, basically now the top prospect in all of minor league baseball, all the big leagues there, and he'll be in that game. Jordan Lawler for the Arizona Diamondbacks, as well as 6'6" Spencer Jones of the New York Yankees. So Yankees have another Titan future player in their lineup. In the coaching staff and the National League, a couple notable names. Adrian Beltre is going to be the hitting coach. But in the American League, hoping to catch up with Rockies great, kind of a question mark at the end, Jamie Moyer. Jamie Moyer is going to be the pitching coach for the American League. So that will be cool. Hopefully I'll get a chance to catch up with them as I'll be providing coverage out there Saturday through the actual All-Star game itself on Tuesday night. Honorable mention for the hitters also, Nico Decolati, 313, 5 for 16. And Nick Garcia, the guy that came over in the Connor Joe trade. He went 6 innings, only gave up 1 hit, no runs allowed. Evan Justice and Nick Kuzi doing a nice job in the bullpen. High A prospect of the week for the Rockies, Jordan Beck. I think this might be his second time in the 3 weeks that we've been featuring prospects of the week. He's ready to go up. He is ready for AA. 2 homers, 9 RBI. He walked 6 times, 2 stolen bases. I'm not really sure what else there's left for him to do. Perhaps they want him to struggle and get through one of those slumps and say, look, you're going to have to deal with this in the majors, so you might as well learn how to dig yourself out of one of those holes. But he's pretty much ready to go. Just like we said a couple weeks ago, Yankiel Fernandez was ready for AA, finally got the promotion. Jordan Beck ready for AA. That should be happening at any moment. Honorable mention to Zach Kokoska, who's been a real surprise, having a solid 2023 with High A Spokane. 2 doubles, triple homer, stolen base, 5 RBI. And shortstop Nick Kent, a 23-year-old breaking out after being an 11th round pick out of the University of Virginia back in 2021. He hit 304 this week with 4 doubles, 4 RBI. And Jared Candy, he's been another one of those sleeper players at High A in the rotation for Spokane. 7 innings pitched. Blake Adams, 5 2/3 innings pitched. A couple others had really good weeks. Spokane may go back-to-back in that Northwest League championship. And our low A prospect of the week, Jesus Bugarin, outfielder, 7 RBI, hit 294 with 2 stolen bases. Andy Perez was up there again as one of the top players for the Fresno Grizzlies in this last week. A double, stolen base, 6 RBI. And props to left-handed starter Alberto Pacheco, 20-year-old in just his 3rd start, 7 innings pitched, 4 hits, 1 run, 1 walk, 8 strikeouts. Also had really good starts from Michael Prosecki and Connor Stain. So you really like what the prospects are doing down there. They've got a way to go. We want to let the kids play, but the kids are definitely kids when they're down in low A, high A, and only some kids in double A will even have a chance to make their debut in the second half for the Rockies this year. But make sure you're making a debut. If you've never been to the DNVR bar on the corner of Colfax and York, make that debut. Head on down here, especially if you're a diehard. So many wonderful benefits. Online, of course, DNVRlocker.com. You get 20% off all the gear, 20% off the takeovers. We've got 2 coming up for the rest of the season. July 29th against the Oakland A's is one of them. And in fact, if you want to get the other one, on September 16th against San Francisco, you can double dip and save even more money as a diehard on that package. But of course, when you do come down and make that debut at the DNVR bar, you are going to get 15% off all of your food and drink. Got to head over to Saturday Neon so you can get yourself set up with some serious LED signs, depending on what college you may have gone to or even root for. They've linked up with 19 Division I schools, University of Colorado, CSU Rams, of course, Arizona, Alabama, Auburn, Wisconsin, so many more. High-quality materials from this company that was started up by 2 friends. They were college roommates at CU. They've got these licensed collegiate logos. These signs are amazing to make your garage, man cave, or just living room look absolutely fantastic, from small to really large. They've got really large, almost like 3 feet by 3 feet. It's absolutely magnificent. Just go to watch. I love doing some window shopping when I'm thinking about getting a new product. Go window shopping on SaturdayNeon.com, and when you're ready to go all in, you get 10% off when you use that code DNVR, and you also get free shipping with your order over $200. And make sure you are drinking professionally. How about that? I like that. Drink professionally with Breck Brew Mountain Beach Sour. It's officially summertime, and it definitely feels it. Definitely feels like the summer with the temperatures that we got right now. And what better than the aroma of fresh pineapple blend with notes of guava. That's what we're talking about with the Mountain Beach Sour. If you're not sure where to get it in your neighborhood, go to breckbrew.com and the Breck Brew locator. Type in your zip code, boom, you'll find out where you can get it anywhere around the country. The beer that's brewed right here in Colorado with Colorado ingredients and 100% renewable energy. breckbrew.com and the Breck Brew locator to find Breck Brew near you. Well, a gentleman who's near and dear to me, and I always love seeing in the press box or at a thin crust pizza place or the Arizona Fall League, you name it, Jesse Friedman of PHNX Diamondbacks. What's going on, Jesse? Good to see you.
Great to see you too, Patrick.
I appreciate you got the City Connect green on. I at least that's what it looks like from here. Got to ask, 25-1. Everyone's got their takes. They're kind of all the same. That's an awful game. But what were your thoughts during that game or after, just kind of seeing the box score? 25-1 loss to the Angels on Saturday by the Rockies. What were your thoughts on it?
I mean, honestly, my thoughts, I have more thoughts on the series than I do on that individual game because, as you know, Patrick, the reality is the Colorado Rockies won this series. The Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim departed that series losing 2 out of 3 to not one of the better teams in baseball. So at the end of the day, run differential doesn't really matter all that much. What matters most at the end of the day is which team actually won more games in the series, and the Colorado Rockies won the series, Patrick. So I don't know what everyone is so up in arms about.
I do think that there's a chance that both teams left Coors Field on Sunday with their heads down. Like the Angels, we should be feeling pretty good, but we did lose that series. But the Rockies, they do a good job of flushing those losses. And in the case of a 25-1 loss, it might be a 2-flusher. And so hopefully they did that and they were able to keep their heads high because they did win the series. And we'll talk about the Dodgers series coming up here in a second. But when you look at the Rockies right now, Jesse, it's always great to get an outsider's perspective, or like somebody that's just outside our region and covering the team. What do you see when you look either at the 2023 Colorado Rockies or just the Rockies organization in general?
I see a team that seems to be struggling to come to terms with where they're at. It seems like the Rockies, for a number of years now, it's been pretty clear that this team was probably not going to contend, that they were going to have a period of a few years where they're going to have to build up some assets and, try to build the farm system as much as they can, and then try to make a run here in another couple of years. I was pretty dumbfounded last year when the Rockies chose to extend Daniel Bard instead of trade him. If I were at the helm in Colorado, which it's probably good I'm not for a number of reasons. But one thing I would do is probably look at, what could you get for Kyle Freeland in a trade? What could you get for Ryan McMahon in a trade? I understand you don't necessarily want to sell off every piece that you have. I think there's some merit to keeping some guys in the organization. I know Charlie Blackmon obviously is a huge part of just the franchise culture in Colorado, but you got to start making some moves. You got to identify what direction you're going and stick with it and trust that process. And it seems like the Rockies have had a hard time coming to terms with that in recent years.
Direction definitely seems to be that key word, and kind of accepting where you're at. The Rockies don't like the word rebuild, right? And of course, tanking is going to extremes. But if you can at least accept where you're at, you can create a better direction for yourself. Who do you want to keep around? Or just, recognizing the reality of the John Gray situation happened in 2021. And I think it was, they got outplayed maybe by John Gray's agent saying, hey, no, we want to stay here. So then you don't trade him. When you could trade him and still negotiate and sign him, you don't give him the qualifying offer. And then he goes elsewhere and is able to get, the most bang for his buck, the most money that he can get possibly on a contract, because there's not a qualifying offer hanging over his head in that capacity. And then going into this season, and you can even make the case last year, the Rockies should have thought maybe now's the time we move on for German Marquez. Either we extend him going forward or we trade him when his value is incredibly high. And now they're sitting in a place where, he just had Tommy John surgery. He has an option for next year. You're probably not going to pick that up. Maybe there's a chance you can, not pick up that option and sign a 2-year extension so that you have him obviously for 2024 as he rehabs. Maybe he can come back late in the year. And then 2025, you have a healthy German Marquez before he potentially goes back out on the market. But you've muddied the waters in a big way, because maybe, you didn't really pick a direction that you really should have.
Right. Yeah. I mean, German Marquez is definitely a name that comes to mind. A guy that I think has been criminally underappreciated around baseball for a number of years. Same story with Kyle Freeland, honestly. We all understand how difficult it is to pitch in Coors Field. And I think casual baseball fans are very quick to dismiss players who have big offensive seasons playing half their games in that ballpark. But the flip side of that is you have to give a lot of credit to pitchers who actually have a decent amount of success there. And yeah, German Marquez has certainly been one of those guys. I think he's the kind of pitcher where if you put him in, a Dodger Stadium, if you put him in San Francisco, suddenly he looks like, a top of the rotation type starter. So yeah, that's another asset that, unfortunately now that Rockies aren't really in position to make any kind of a move there, but that's another asset that you probably could have used to your advantage, at least explored what you could have gotten in a trade there. And the Rockies didn't do that, and now they're obviously in a tough position with his future moving forward.
I want to talk plenty about the National League West, Diamondbacks, Dodgers, and the other Rockies, because they're still in that division. We'll talk more about them. But I couldn't help but think, and, at various points throughout the year, there's conversation about future Hall of Famers. Hey, where is this guy at? Shohei Ohtani, future Hall of Famer. Too soon. It's too soon. Obviously, he's on that trajectory, but we've seen so many young players. I mean, think about a guy who plays third base for the Diamondbacks right now, Evan Longoria. You would have said 3 years into his career, 5 years into his career. Yeah, he's on a Hall of Fame trajectory,
right.
But it's a trajectory. It's not guaranteed. It is not locked in place. So you got to get those 10 years in. Freddie Freeman over the weekend, does get his 2,000th hit on a double, 300 home runs for his career. 98th player to reach that milestone. Seems like it might be a lot, but if you get 300 home runs, you've been around for quite a while. He's definitely a player that has convinced me more recently that he deserves to be a Hall of Famer, because first base is such a tough position. And he always seemed to be like a Fred McGriff player, where he was always maybe the second or third best first baseman in the National League. But he's been doing it so long now at this point that you have to recognize that, you know, he is an all-time great from this generation of players and deserves a spot in Cooperstown one day.
I absolutely agree. I think, you know, when we talk about Hall of Famers, we often talk about the player's peak. You know, most players, if you play in the league for 15 years or whatever, you probably have a span of, you know, 3 to 5 years, maybe 6 years, where you were really at the top of your game. That, I feel, would be sort of difficult to identify with Freddie Freeman, because he's just been, as you said, not necessarily the best first baseman in the game, although maybe you could make that case at this point. He and Paul Goldschmidt have kind of gone back and forth in that title in recent years. But yeah, he's been right up there as a star, as a clear-cut star in this league for a number of years. So yeah, I think, you know, he's far enough into his career where I think we can pretty comfortably say that he's headed in that direction.
And I think he's helped himself with stuff like off the field, just being a general good guy and everything that he represents. You say you want him almost to be a Hall of Famer rather than just leaving the resume as is. So he's safe to do that. Are you, you know, again, we look things through the purple lens. Is it wild to think that the deal that he ended up getting from the Dodgers was 6 years, $162 million, and the deal that Chris Bryant got from Colorado was very similar? It was an extra year and an extra $20 million, 7-year, $182 million. We know how the things are going for the Chris Bryant deal right now as far as him being on the field. He is rehabbing in Albuquerque, or will be on Wednesday and Thursday, before probably rejoining the Rockies on Friday for the start of the Detroit Tigers series. But even at the time, it seemed like perhaps a gross overpay for the Rockies, and very much an underpay that the Dodgers had with their Freddie Freeman deal during that offseason 2 years ago.
The Dodgers, man, they just have this way. They just have this way of knowing, you know, how guys are going to age. And even you look at some of the trades that they've made in recent years, it feels like they have this supernatural ability to know which prospects are going to pan out and which ones won't. So yeah, I can't say I'm all that surprised. The Dodgers, just the way that they evaluate, you know, external assets, I think is very clearly among the best in the game. It's not just that they have all this money to spend, even though they do. It's that they spend it better than pretty much anyone in the league. Like, I think if you gave that amount of money in payroll to a bunch of teams around the league, they wouldn't make it go nearly as far as what the Dodgers are able to do. And the Freddie Freeman contract is a clear example of that. I don't know how the Dodgers would have evaluated Chris Bryant internally at that point when he was a free agent. But I imagine that, you know, they probably would have seen him playing a few more games with the Rockies than he has so far. They would probably have imagined him being a little more healthy than he's been. But yeah, I mean, I kind of wonder what their internal analysis would have been of him in his future. I don't know personally if I could have seen that coming. I mean, I remember when the Rockies made the move for Chris Bryant, the thought of Chris Bryant playing, you know, potentially the rest of his career in that ballpark was, I mean, he could be incredible. I mean, I know you've talked about him winning the batting title. Like, those are the kinds of thoughts that I don't think are too out there. He just hasn't been able to stay healthy. And I don't know if you fault the Rockies for maybe not fully understanding his medical situation going into this contract, but it's just a tough break as far as I can tell.
The Dodgers, of course, can paper over mistakes that they made financially if they do have, you know, a bad signing. Do a search on Hector Oliveira. I think I got that name right. No one even talks about this guy, but they paid a pretty penny. There's plenty of guys. He's the Dodgers version of Yasmani Tomas,
right.
to make a connection for the D-backs world there. But on the other hand, again, they spend that money really well. You know, and the Rockies, they have a really good payroll. Like, they're not cheap. Dick Monfort will spend money on the roster. It's just who they spend the money on, that's the problem. Or how do they come to those conclusions that these are the players we should be going after? And what are the reasons? Is it for the on-field acumen, or is it maybe more for some off-the-field stuff, which, does have some importance. But when you're winning a World Series, sometimes you're going to have some bad guys that are going to be in your clubhouse to try to get to that next step. The American Raptors are, for one, not bad guys. They're great guys. They're great athletes from all sports. I mean, basketball, baseball, track and field. They play down at Infinity Park, and they've got something special going on down there in Glendale, Colorado, where, kids under 12 get in for free. It's rugby. It's fantastic. You can learn the sport along with these guys, these professional athletes that are learning a new sport and that are training at Infinity Park. It's only $10. Children, again, 12 and under, are free. It's really great. You can also go online, check out their matches live on ESPN Plus. And AmericanRaptors.com is where you get all of that. You can check out the DNVR Rugby Podcast as well, because Colton Strickler does an amazing job breaking down the basics of the sport, as well as talking with so many of those that are at the top of their game. So check out Rugby Town USA down at Infinity Park with the American Raptors. And Jesse, are you guys Shady Rays folks down there in Arizona? I mean, you need glasses, but you really need Shady Rays specifically in Arizona, don't you?
Yeah, I lived a very deprived life growing up, Patrick, because
Okay.
I did not wear sunglasses. I grew up in the Valley of the Sun, and I just never wore sunglasses. And now I have Shady Rays, and they are life changing. My eyes don't hate me nearly as much as they used to. So, yeah, shout out Shady Rays.
And I will attest that when I first met you, Jesse, my biggest takeaway wasn't, your height. It was the fact that you had pin-sized pupils. And I think that has to do with staring into the sun. But over these last 2 years, dude, the pupils have normalized. You got beautiful pupils now. And that's thanks to Shady Rays. You can thank us by using code DNVR to buy one pair, get one free. You can also head to the Park Meadows Mall, and you buy 2 or more pairs of polarized shades, and you get 50% off those bad boys. If you lose or break them, they'll replace them for you. And if you don't like them, hey, within 30 days, actually give you a full refund. So fear not, normal pupils with Shady Rays. Is your producer laughing back there? Are they commenting that?
Yeah, Emma's losing it back here. Absolutely.
Emma's like, wow, yeah, that's it. I haven't been able to put my finger on the pupil situation here for Mr. Friedman. Arizona, first place Arizona Diamondbacks. The potential obviously was there going into the season. They were one of those sleeper teams where you go, you got to really like them. You got to root for them to get into the postseason by hook or by crook, to get the wild card. And now we're talking about one of the best teams in the National League. The biggest question I have for a team that, again, so many of us could see the scenario in which it could play out. How has it played out this quickly into the season in the first half for them to be the best in the NL West, along the likes of the Dodgers, the Giants, and Padres? Diamondbacks are first.
A whole lot of things have gone right, Patrick. That's the short answer. I think coming into this season, if you squint a little bit, you could maybe have seen this outcome. If Ketel Marte gets back to being the hitter that he was 2 years ago, if Lourdes Gurriel comes over from Toronto and becomes the hitter that he's been in years past as well, and gets back to some of the power that he showcased in past years, if Christian Walker has another strong season offensively, and the biggest one is probably if Corbin Carroll bursts on the scene and becomes the player that everyone dreams he could be on day one, which is basically what he's done this season with what he, it's incredible. He has an OPS over 900. He's one of the best base runners in the game. He's a good defender in the outfield. He does everything, and he's 22 years old, and this is his rookie season. And some people might have thought he could become this eventually, but he's already become this. And I think with young players who have that kind of big future, who have that prospect status, you never really know what you're going to get. You don't know if it's going to take a few years. You don't know if it's going to happen on day one. You don't know if maybe they were overhyped a little bit and they're never really going to become the player that you want them to be. For Corbin Carroll, he's been everything the Diamondbacks could have hoped for and more. And, he's been probably the biggest part of what the Diamondbacks have done so far.
Everything that you're saying obviously rings true about young guys. You never know, which is why you need depth. That's why in the farm system,
Yes,
you need to have multiple players. And going into the season, Diamondbacks had 4 of those kind of players in their outfield. Dalton Varsho, obviously a little bit older, but Jake McCarthy came on strong and looked like a world beater when he came to Coors Field in September of last year. And then Alek Thomas was that first big name guy. And the attrition rate of these prospects, it can go that way. You hope that one of them can play out, and that's absolutely the case. And you have to give GM Mike Hazen of the Diamondbacks all the credit, because he identified the fact that, look, you need multiple guys because you can't put all those eggs in one basket. And you got to hope that one of multiple guys will do it. Rockies are in a place right now with Zach Veen out for the rest of the year, and he was a guy that a lot of people were hyped about. I mean, we've got a Veenometer, we've got a piece of medical equipment to try to measure when he was going to make his major league debut this year, and now it's kind of out of commission. It's down to 0% because he won't even possibly get a chance to make his debut until next year, and now there's not the next big hype prospect to come up. And I know that was a big part of Hazen's plan there, was not just to try to go all in on 1 or 2 guys. It was really a full buffet of players, so many more that you haven't even mentioned, especially those on the pitching side, to say, hey, look, we're going to need a lot of these guys, so we might as well get a lot of these guys.
That's a great point. Yeah, I think the Diamondbacks have been, they're sort of the poster children for not putting all of their eggs in one basket. They do have, especially on the pitching side, they have a bunch of pitching prospects right now. I wouldn't say any of them are projected to be aces, but they have a bunch of pitching prospects who are either in the majors or right on the verge of the majors. And it gives you a lot of flexibility, where if one guy is struggling, you can send him down. Another guy's been doing well down in Reno, call him up, see what he's able to do in the big leagues. The D-backs have done a lot of that cycling in and out this season. Even Alek Thomas and Jake McCarthy, 2 outfielders that you mentioned earlier, both of those guys have spent considerable amounts of time this year in the minors, even though coming into the year, they seem like, 2 of the most important players on this roster. So having those different options, not necessarily having to lean too much on any particular young player, except for Corbin Carroll. They've needed everything that they've gotten from him, but not having to lean too much on any of these other guys has allowed them to sort of ride the hot hand and cycle through as they've seen fit.
Not only is Corbin Carroll a Rookie of the Year award candidate, I mean, he's the front runner, head and shoulders. Okay, great. Although Yuri Perez, he's doing some things. Like, we got a long way to go. Yeah. That's part of this. He's the front runner. He's also an MVP candidate right now, which is wild to think, because I think the only 2 guys in recent memory that have done the Rookie of the Year MVP dance is like Ichiro, who was a professional athlete, coming over to America from Japan, and an all-world inner circle great like Albert Pujols. Carroll and the Diamondbacks have never won a Rookie of the Year award. Right. I mean, right. Like, you know this. Like, that's one of those weird and wild stats. You go, oh yeah, you know what? That's kind of a strange anomaly. So it's been just interesting to see how great of a head start, because we kind of hope that our guy Ezequiel Tovar, he's continuing to do incredibly well, and he tried to make a push for the All-Star game. I think he'll probably be on the outside looking in, but Carroll has been an MVP candidate, is a great All-Star candidate, and I don't think there's been any Phase 2 voting results that have been released yet. But do you think there's a chance Carroll could be starting the All-Star game up in his home area of Seattle? It would make for a great story.
It really would. We actually did get a Phase 2 update just like maybe a couple hours ago, and it was Corbin Carroll and Mookie Betts were at the top. Mookie Betts was in first. Corbin Carroll was in second. Of course, it's the top 2 who would advance and start in the All-Star game. So he is in, as of now, that's only from day 1, but as of now, he is in good position to be in that spot. And yeah, he deserves it. I mean, he absolutely deserves it. You know that Diamondbacks players don't necessarily get a whole lot of notoriety around the league. But Corbin Carroll is in a position right now where his numbers are so significantly better than the other guys on that list that I think that voters who might not even know his name are like, all right, well, this is kind of obvious. Yeah. Michael Harris is in there. Lourdes Gurriel of the Diamondbacks is also in there. Who he was really, really great for the first couple months of the season and then has kind of tailed off. I don't really think he deserves the nod at this point. But yeah, it's an incredible story. Corbin Carroll went to Lakeside School, which is a private school in Seattle. So he's a local guy, and I know it would mean the world to him and his family to be a part of that. So it's amazing that as of right now, it looks like he's going to get that opportunity.
He went to a private school in Seattle area?
He did.
Anyway, so 35% for Mookie Betts in the outfield. Corbin Carroll, 31%. Yeah, Michael Harris the second. A bit lower than that at 19%. Lourdes Gurriel at 16%. So that would make for such a wonderful story. Do you think Gurriel Jr. will still make the All-Star team? And is there anybody else on the Diamondbacks? I mean, you would think, again, if you're in first place in the NL West, you should have at least 2 representatives, probably even 3 guys get on there. We're not going to have a Joe Mantiply situation. I'll say that much, right?
Probably not. No, the Diamondbacks, according to their transaction log, actually sent Joe Mantiply down to Reno today. So it's amazing how fast things can change for relievers. But yeah, I think the D-backs should have, in my opinion, they should have 4 All-Stars.
Wow.
I think three is just a baseline. I mean, as you said, they're in first in the NL West. They have the second best record in the National League. In past years, we're used to seeing those kinds of teams have 5, maybe even 6 representatives in the All-Star game. I don't know if the D-backs necessarily deserve that, but Corbin Carroll has to be in there. Zach Gallen has to be in there. He's the favorite, apparently, to win the Cy Young Award, according to a lot of different sports betting odds that you'll find on the internet. And then beyond that, I think Merrill Kelly has a reasonable chance to make that team. He and Gallen have formed one of the most dynamic 1-2 punches in baseball. Ketel Marte, with the month of June that he's had, I think he probably unquestionably should make the team along with Luis Ariz. I don't think he should start. Luis Ariz obviously is doing the 400 thing. He deserves that spot more than anyone. But Ketel has an OPS of around 900 at this point, which is far and away better than any other second baseman in the National League. So I think he should be in there for sure. And then the other name I'd bring up is Geraldo Perdomo, a player who very few people really know about at this point. He opened the year in a platoon role with Nick Ahmed, Diamondbacks veteran shortstop. And they're kind of still doing that platoon to this day. Geraldo Perdomo is still sort of acting as a platoon player, although he's maybe been mixed in a little bit more here and there at other positions. But yeah, I mean, he has an OPS well over 800. He is one of the better shortstop defenders in baseball. And shortstop has just been kind of a light position in the National League this year.
Yes.
With Trey Turner struggling as he has, and other guys as well. So I think there's a case to be made there too.
And that's why I think Tovar still has an outside chance, especially because the Rockies will have themselves somewhat of a Mantiply situation, that being 1 representative. Dunking on you, Jesse. Sorry. Yeah, I shouldn't. You're right. He got optioned today. But yeah, it'll be 1 guy, and it really could just be a numbers game of like, hey, what position do we kind of need? How does it fit? So Tovar's in the conversation, though. McMahon really has to be like that top guy right now. If you had your choice, if you had your druthers, you don't have to worry about getting your choice when you come down to the DNVR bar, because we always have a Colorado game on. Members, again, 15% off. All food and drink, 20% off. All the merch at DNVRlocker.com. You get that physical Die Hard card that looks badass. I'll say that much. It's amazing. Existing members, you automatically get that upgrade. You get a free shirt each and every year. Access to that Diehards only content, especially the Rockies group, man. Tip of the cap to you guys, because you've been hanging in there so hard, Jesse. So, yes, you feel their pain, and you don't even know their pain, but you feel that pain. You know that pain, don't you, Jesse?
I mean, we launched our show, Patrick, in September of 2021 when the Diamondbacks were in the final month of a 52-win season. So we know what it's like to muscle through some tough times.
Yeah, much props to all the diehards getting that diehard only access on Discord. And some of our summer events we got coming up. UFC, man, there's 2 coming up in July 8th and July 29th. Come out for that on the corner of Colfax and York. Let's go ahead and preview a little bit of this Dodgers series. We've got probable starters of Connor Siebold going against Clayton Kershaw on Tuesday. These are all night games too, by the way. I think they're all at 6:40. And the reason for that, I know, but I guess I should probably say allegedly, or I think that this is a bit of a payback, because I don't know if the Dodgers pull this with the Diamondbacks, but on getaway day, it should be a day game, partially with the reason why they call it a getaway day. So you have some time to get to your next city rather than traveling all night to go either back home or to a new city. And so the getaway day on Thursday is not a day game. It is a night game for these Los Angeles Dodgers. And in fact, the final week of the season, instead of playing Monday through Thursday, Rockies and Dodgers at Coors Field, it's going to be Tuesday through Thursday with a doubleheader on Tuesday for the final week of the season. So you know what? Sometimes payback can be a doubleheader in the final week of the season. On Wednesday, Kyle Freeland against Michael Grove. And on Thursday, Chase Anderson against Emmett Sheehan. That is a real name. It is a great name for the Dodgers, who are going to look to try to take all three, but it's always so incredibly hard to do that, especially against a Rockies team that plays well at home. This is their home ballpark. You almost can't not be a threat to win 2 out of 3 against just about anybody in this building.
I know that Diamondbacks players and their coaching staff, they do not speak highly of playing games at Coors Field. It's sort of like all right, here we go. I hope we come back alive. Something along those lines. Yeah, it's a tough place to play, even though the Rockies are, not the team that a lot of people wish they were right now. There's still something intimidating for an outside team coming in there. No matter how good they are, it feels like you're playing a different game. At the end of the day, it is just baseball, but baseball at Coors Field, I know to players feels like a different game. Just how taxing it is on their bodies. It's different. It's a different recovery process for them. So yeah, I don't think the Dodgers are getting anything too easy in this series. And hearing those pitching matchups outside of the one today, I think the Rockies have a shot in this series.
It definitely is about survival for the visiting teams when they come here and just getting through it and going on to the next place. That's why it's difficult to be a member of the Colorado Rocky, because you're surviving half of the season. And then you go out on the road and pitches look different. It's a Coors Field effect. We know it, Coors Field hangover, however you want to call it. It's much different for the visitors. You just got to hold on and survive. And Jesse, I appreciate you holding on and surviving this conversation. I know you were dreading it. You tried to back out at the last minute and say, do we really have to talk about the Rockies? Yes. No, you didn't try to back out at all. You're a professional. I appreciate you. Go ahead and plug away and let folks know that, again, under our All-City Network banner, I mean, you guys are doing some amazing things over there. And I've had a couple people talk about, going down and maybe taking a trip down to Arizona, or taking a look at some of the PHNX Diamondbacks and the GoPHNX.com website, maybe even becoming a member to see some of the stuff behind the paywall. So go ahead and plug away a lot of the things that you and Derek are doing at GoPHNX.com and as well as the GoPHNX site on YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, I think D-backs fans and Rockies fans have a lot in common, right? They all hate the Dodgers, they all hate the Padres, and they all hate the Giants. So there's a lot of room for crossovers here. You can find our show over on the PHNX Sports YouTube channel. So if you're subscribed here to DNVR, we'd of course love if you would subscribe to our channel as well on YouTube. If you're on the Twitterverse, you can find us over on Twitter at PHNX_D-backs. We have a lot of fun during games. My co-host and partner in crime, Derek Montilla, is really a madman with the memes and the GIFs and whatnot. So you'll have a great time if you give us a follow on Twitter. You can also find me personally on Twitter at Jesse N Friedman. I'm a little bit more serious on Twitter than maybe our PHNX D-backs account is, but I tweet stats and insightful things, and those things are important too at the end of the day. So we would love for any of you DNVR folks to join us over at PHNX.
That's the thing that you guys do really well. You're spontaneous, but there's also some things that are, dare I say, predetermined. So you guys have it covered. In all ways. We've got it covered on Twitter at DNVR_Rockies. At Patrick D. Lyons is where I'm at. But Jesse, I think you may know what they say about baseball and momentum, particularly when it comes to podcasts.
It's only as great as your next show, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right?
That's right. And so tomorrow's going to be a great one because we got Susie Hunter back right here at 1 p.m. live on the DNVR Sports channel on YouTube.
There we go.